camera. Welcome to another episode of NC Beer Guys, NC Beer Buzz. We're pleased today to be in Charlotte on Park Road at Brawley's Beverage Company, and we're here with the man, Michael Brawley, and he's invited us in, and we want to talk about all the things that are going on here. And we've heard about Brawley's forever, and you guys who are regular viewers of ours and pay attention to the NC Beer scene know all about Mike Brawley and what he does for Charlotte beer scene. And we're real pleased to be able to stand and talk with him today. Thanks for having us in, Mike.
Thank you for coming.
So, tell us a little bit about how you got into the beer business, and what have you always done beer, or how did it evolve?
Well, I was kind of born into the beer business. My dad started really the first beer and wine store in Charlotte that made it over the hump back in the early 70s. And so I grew up from the age of 4, which is how old Piper, my daughter, is now in this store. Basically cleaning bottles, and cleaning out recycling bottles, and returners, and dusting and doing all the things that kids do growing up in beer stores. And my dad sold when I was 16. Sold his business.
Okay.
And so after that, I wound up working in a lot of bars, bouncing, bartending, and running yachts.
Still
yachts
the fringe of the business.
Yeah. And there's a lot of drinking when you run yachts, beers from all over. Mm-hmm. So and then I came home about 1999, met my wife, and here in Charlotte, and I was running a boat up in New York. And after I met her, I knew that it wasn't going to be a sustainable lifestyle delivering yachts for a living. So
right, settle in somewhere.
Yeah, came back to Charlotte and worked at the Visual Light Theater, which is a really nice venue. It's where we have the Black and Blue Festival every year. Basically, found out this building was going to become available, and sold my house over in Nodau and leased this building. And kind of went all in and opened maybe a 50-50 beer store, wine store.
Okay.
And
when was this you opened?
This was 2003. I got the building fall of 2004 and opened early 2003. And it took about 5 months to get the building, livable. And we got open, and we struggled like hell for about 2 years, and I bartended to keep the doors open.
Okay.
And right about 2005, Pop the Cap came, and then everything changed. Then beer started kicking the shit out of the wine, and just little by little, the beer section grew and grew until now, wine is in 2 small little shelves. We'll never give it up all together.
And you've got some wine competition that you didn't have.
Oh yeah.
So they can just more else buy the wine.
Yeah, exactly. Our wine sales really haven't gone down. It's just the space that we dedicate to wine has gone down.
And you have to be careful what you stock, and just stock what you need, what you know.
It's easy, we only have good things because we have so little, and it just seems to move really well. It goes hand in hand with. So if a lady wants to buy some beer and she wants to get her husband a bottle of wine, well, we've got that covered.
So the building's got some history. You talked about the building. It was what was here? Was this a service station?
Yeah, this building was built in 1948, and it was a Crown. You're probably familiar with Crown stations. You just don't really see as many of them around. It was built in 1948, post World War II, exuberant. So you can see the architecture. They weren't really worried about, the price of energy. Yeah. And you'll see these stations all over North and South Carolina, and a little bit up around Baltimore. They're based in Baltimore, but a very unique, mid-century gas station. It was built in 48. It served as a gas station until 74, when my dad bought the building, and I'm actually in the process of trying to buy the building from him currently. So hopefully that goes through.
And there was something in here between the gas station and when you came in.
Yeah. So Dad was here from 74 to 86. He sold his business in 86. The gentleman he sold the business to leased this building for 15 years. He broke his lease. He moved right next door. Hey, you move next door, you break your lease, there's consequences.
Right.
And left this building vacant. Grandfathered as a retail establishment, but it would have reverted to office if it wouldn't maintain the same use.
Okay.
So I basically, just went in and did the only thing that was legal to do, and it turned out to be what I was meant to do. So.
Now, you said you grew up around beer. Mm-hmm. Did you consider yourself a beer geek at the time?
No.
So you've come a long way in your own evolution.
Yeah, when I was in college, I prefer any type of alcohol to beer, because the beers that I was exposed to were just tragic. And this was, the late 80s, and there was just not much good on the scene. People thought Pete's Wicked was, excellent beer. Mm-hmm. And I tasted stuff like that, but just never really liked it.
And there was no local craft brew scene.
No, the beer that really opened my eyes was Albemarle Ale. and I think it was probably 1990, 89. I'm sure I was 21, and
let's say you were anyway.
yeah, and I was a student at UNCC, and one of the kids I was in school with said, "Man, there's a place over here in Charlotte that they brew beer at the restaurant. You can actually," and I was like, "What? Yeah, beer comes from big factories."
Right.
So we went over there, and it was a Monday night, and they had dollar draft pints, and we stayed. And after about 10 drafts, I was like, "I'm going to come here every Monday for the rest of my life.
I'm going to be here." That's right.
And it was Almar Ale. It really was the first beer that I ever enjoyed. And then a few months after that, I went looking, and there's a place here in town called the Laurel Market, and it's a little store that has a deli and a nice beer and wine selection and an eclectic mix of other items. And I went in there and I found Liberty Ale. And when I had my first Liberty Ale, it was like the clouds parted and the sun came out, and I realized that beer could taste like this. And I was probably on the cusp of 21, and from then on, everything changed. So that was really a formative moment for me, drinking Liberty Ale.
So when you came in and opened up at first, you said it was like half and half beer and wine. How did you decide what beer to put in if you didn't really know?
Back then it was easy because you could pretty much bring everything that was available in.
Because there was limited
There
availability.
was just nothing here. There were some great beers here. I mean, Liberty was here, and Anderson Valley was here, and we had Celebrator, and we had the Fullers, and but the 98% of the market was Newcastle, Bass, Heineken, Corona, and it was just tragic. So we basically stocked what we could, and we carried domestics back then.
But you don't now at all.
We don't. I've got a couple customers that have been shopping with me for 12 years. So I keep their beer. We don't keep it out on the shelves. It's here for them. But I can't say we don't sell it.
But you got to deal with the customer. You have to be where your customers are.
We sell them when we have to. But we don't sell any Craft Brewers Alliance. So if it says Budweiser, it's no threat to my friends' breweries.
Right.
If it says Goose Island, it's a threat to my friends' breweries. So we just don't sell it. If it's owned by a corporation like InBev, but tries to pretend to be a craft beer, we won't touch it. That's just immoral, in my opinion. And so basically, beer just steadily kicked wine into the corner that it is, and grew as the market grew.
And as the North Carolina beer scene came above.
Yeah.
And then of course later the Charlotte beer scene evolved. And became something.
Yeah, we started doing Black and Blue 6 years ago, and just since that time, 2010, it's amazing what has happened, in Charlotte. Back then, it was tough to find a good selection of North Carolina beers, and now it's like we've got a great selection right here in Charlotte.
Now, for our viewers who don't know, tell us about Black and Blue. You've referenced that a couple of times. It's a festival you do once a year at Visual Light. You reference Visual Light.
Yep, it's really the only festival we do. A lot of people do a lot of things. We just try to do one good one a year. It's not very large.
It's all craft beer.
It's all North Carolina craft beer.
Right.
We do have guests from other states sometimes, but it's a North Carolina craft beer, and it's not any craft beer. It's typically things that aren't available in the bottle, aren't available outside of the brewery.
You ask them to bring something special,
a
one-off or something they've done. And a lot of the guys brew particularly for the Black and Blue event.
So a good many of the beers are people that, Noda and Birdsong. A lot of these guys have specifically gone out of the way to make something just for Black and Blue, and which we really appreciate. And the people that show up appreciate having something that's a one-off and made for them.
With the proliferation of festivals now, I mean, there's a festival every weekend somewhere if you want to drink some beer. How has that impacted Black and Blue?
Not at all. I mean, we've actually cut back the number of tickets that we've sold this year by about 30.
Trying to change the experience a little bit?
Well, last year, I mean, festivals just are so impersonal, and Black and Blue is the exact opposite of that. This year we'll have maybe, including guests in the band and employees, we'll maybe have 330 people in there. And we're going to have probably 35 breweries with 2 people per brewery, 70 people per 300 roughly.
Right. It's a chance to do more than drink the beer, but to interact a little bit and to, like we say, let the people know where their beer comes from, who's behind their beer.
Yeah, and everybody, I mean, if you want to talk to every brewer there, you'll get that opportunity because the ratio is about, 1 to 3.
They won't be so constantly busy with a line that they can't spend 2 minutes with you talking about it.
And the brewers like it because people don't come up and say, what's light?
Right.
The classic joke.
It's a different crowd. It's a different crowd there.
So people that come to Black and Blue want to be there. We sold tickets Christmas Eve. We started selling at 10 a.m. and by 12:30 they were sold out. And that's how we want it. We want the people that it's important enough
to make it a priority.
They get in.
Right.
And so we'll always keep Black English small.
So we got a lot to talk about. The building recently has changed here. You've done some things here now. You did not have a tasting area for many years. Is that right?
Yeah, I was restricted. I could not have on-premise tasting because the lawnmower shop that was here was a light industrial use, the same thing. They were grandfathered in. Their zoning was office. And they chose to move out about 2.5 years ago. So the minute that the letter showed up saying they were moving out, I contacted the zoning department and started the wheels turning and changed the zoning. Quite a long process.
So in the last year, we've brought in the tasting area and expanded the bar, and you've opened up this great glass area.
Yeah. So what we did is this area out front. Everyone's like, "When are you going to pour the pad out there?" I'm like, "Actually, that's going to be a bocce court." And I didn't realize some people don't even know what bocce is. It's a game. It's a.
You see it at the beach a lot of times.
Yeah. It's just a game that is the best way to explain it. It's like horseshoes with balls,
round balls. Yeah. You throw one and try to get the rest close to that one.
It's a lot of fun, and it's everybody's like, well, you can have cornhole out there. I'm like, no, we're going to have adult drinking games for adults. You know, you can play cornhole
anywhere now.
Yeah.
Right.
So that we've got the patio out there, and we are a very kid-friendly place. So we're going to have a designated area for kids. So many of our customers are grown. They have newbies, and there's not many places that they feel comfortable bringing their kids and letting them run around.
Right.
And this is one of those places, at least before 8 p.m. Yeah, so we built the bar ourselves, and we tried to do everything we could ourselves just to save money.
And you stayed a little bit with the origins of the building. It's a little authentic.
Yeah, we basically went back to the original intent of the building. So essentially, if you look at a photo of this building on the exterior, it looks
as a crown station.
As a crown station, it looks very much like it would have
from the street,
the asphalt and pumps. But yeah, so it's like the building I grew up in.
And you were saying off camera before we came in that even though you've been here a couple of years, since you've done the work, people are now coming in and it's like you just moved here.
Yeah, it's night and day. I mean, it's been incredible. But people that live in the neighborhood, and they're like, I've driven by here every day for the past 10 years. And I just finally had to come in and see what was going on. Because, we don't have bar stools, so you basically have to stand at the bar. And people drive by and see people standing around all the time. And somebody came in the other day and said, I thought this was one of those frat houses.
Right. And now they can see in and see what's going on and see there's some activity here. And with the right lighting, you can see the bottles. So that's nice.
Yeah, and it looks better. It was a pretty ratty looking building before. I mean, so many of the comments we get on reviews were like, oh, don't judge this book by its cover, but our cover's a little better now, so hopefully the interior.
So what do you think the mission of what you're doing is? What do you bring to the beer scene? What do you hope to bring to the table?
I mean, I just want to do what we've been doing all along. I want to make a good living for my family. I want to introduce as many people as I can to craft beer because I think a certain percentage of the population still aren't exposed to it.
Absolutely right.
As long as they're introduced in the right way, they'll take to it. I see every day. I see somebody, a new beer geek wants to turn his mom on to a beer or his wife, and instead of just slow walking them down the road, they'll say, "Hey, try this barley wine. This is the best barley wine."
Or they start with the Imperial Double IPA. I mean, they start at the wrong end of the continuum,
and they'll say, "Ooh, I don't like craft beer."
Right. Because that's what they think all craft beer is. They don't know there's a gateways. Yeah. And you start with a culture, nice pills, and move.
Or even craft beer drinkers that you'll give them a sour. And you'll see them pick it up and take a 3-ounce swig of it and go, ooh, that's too sour for me. I'm like, smell it for a while.
Right.
Take a little sip, get it on your lips, approach it slowly. Right. Anything can be overwhelming the first time when you're trying to wrap your head around it and you just get that.
Or if you have certain expectations and it just doesn't meet that. And now we see so many variables in beer and craft beer.
And the biggest difference for introducing people to beer is with this rail, when people come in, we have, 60, 70-year-old ladies that come in here walking their dogs. They're like, oh, I don't like beer. Well, we have wine. Try the wine. And they have a glass or two, get comfortable here. And I'm like, have you ever had a wit beer?
Yeah, sure you don't want to try something.
Yeah, and you just give them a little sip, and they're like, I could drink that. And,
And then you can convert them over to their favorite bottle and take it home.
A lady that was here last night for 2 beers by herself just came up and hung out. And 2 weeks ago, she's like, I don't like beer. I've never liked beer.
And now she's hanging out.
That's one for
hanging out on the Friday night.
For the home team. Yeah.
You feeling growlers here?
We're not filling growlers.
Not by choice or
by choice?
Okay.
Yeah, we
Why?
You know, I think it's an inferior product.
Okay.
So especially the way that our shop would fill it, which would be introducing air into there. It's inevitable that oxygen is going to
And people that may not know how to handle it if they don't drink it soon, they leave it in the refrigerator for weeks or whatever.
So many times somebody will come in and say, "You got to try this." They've got a third of a growler left that they bought, a month ago, and they opened 3 days ago, and it could be the best beer in the world.
So you think it taints the brand?
Yeah. I mean, if I owned a brewery, I'd be mortified if somebody like me was filling big growlers.
But we see it all over the states since they changed the law.
I'm not begrudging anybody, and eventually we may do it.
And there are right ways to do it, as you said. There are some ways to do it that are better than others.
Yep, very expensive, but I can see us eventually doing it because we have to. Mm-hmm. Giving up the business is one thing, but if somebody wants to buy that product, that's their thing, and it helps your volume. And this game for us is about volume.
Okay.
So we're a small beer store, but we move a lot of beer, and we want to keep it that way because that's where your allocations come from, as everybody knows.
Good. So before we close, when you open,
we're open 12 to 5 Sunday, Monday, 12 to 7 Tuesday through Friday, and then Saturday at 11 to 7. But that being said, if people are here any of the week, if we have 10, 12 people here actively drinking,
you're not running them out.
We're not going to run them out. Once it starts to slow down, we start to kind of do the slow walk home. So.
And if people want a beer they haven't found somewhere else, can they order in? Or you try to work with them? Or
as long as it's approved in the state of North Carolina, we can get it for them.
Okay. And do you ship beer?
We don't ship beer.
Okay.
There's several people in town that do that, and they do a good job.
You just don't feel the need to compete with that.
Yeah, it's just, a little more money for a lot more work. And you open yourself up for damage and just problems.
So serving the community and a part of it.
Yeah.
That's great. Thanks for having us in. We appreciate it so much. It's been great talking to you. So again, we've been on Park Road in Charlotte, talking to Michael Brawley at Brawley's Beverage. And for Dave and Glenn, NC Beer Guys, this is another episode of NC Beer Buzz. And we'll remind you to drink local and keep your beer dollars in North Carolina.